Hello there, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani with Jerry Usher, and as we always say for the past almost 5 years, and you are the key person here. So we want to hear from you. This is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. And let's all face it, right now, some of us are on curfews. I think it's 30 states have a curfew. The riots are happening. Protests are taking place. So there's a lot to talk about, and that's what we're going to tackle today as a Take Two family. Jerry?
Yeah, we're going to talk about, we want to cast a wider net than just the George Floyd tragedy, which is awful. We're going to talk about that, and we'd love to have your thoughts on how we should respond to that. Maybe you've got some thoughts about, the peaceful protests that are going on. There's obviously the rioting, the looting, the burning down of cars and buildings. But we want to talk about also about injustice in general. How should we as Catholic Christians respond when something like this happens? So if you have something you'd like to weigh in with, it's 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So please, let's talk about injustices and when we witness them. How do we respond? As Jerry said, as Catholic Christians, and it's important for us to look at this from all angles. So in light of what's going on in our lives today with what's happening, you turn on the news, you see that there's mass chaos and everybody's taking sides and they're politicizing things and all sorts of things are getting lost for the true meaning. But injustices are happening and we are witnessing them on a regular basis now. So what are we to do? Let's talk about it. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call. We're not going to always agree, folks. Let's face it. Lately we have allowed some calls to come in with very different views from maybe for most of us, right, Jerry? And we've heard from some people, they've emailed us and they say, well, why did you allow that caller to call up? Well, of course, that's how you have conversations. That's how you grow. If you shut everybody out, what is that saying? Okay, that's saying that there's some kind of fear that you don't want to enter into a conversation. Maybe we can get to a better understanding. How about that? What do you think, Jerry? What do you feel about that? I mean, if we all had, the same call come in, it wouldn't be much of a radio show.
Well, that's right. And nothing is needed more now than constructive dialogue and not reacting. I mean, we got to look at the things like what happened to George Floyd. I mean, first of all, we need to state up front, it is inexcusable what happened. I mean, just to see that video and the police officer, and
it's appalling. Mm-hmm.
It's appalling that somebody. It defies belief because there's cell phone cameras recording, from every angle and going on, and you just have to wonder, what was going through people's minds. But at the same time, not even that, as tragic as it is, justifies the rioting, the looting, the violence, the burning down of cars, breaking into. Just Debbie, you and I were talking about this before the show. The cost of this is going to be experienced by not only us today and tomorrow and in the weeks to come, but in coming generations as well.
That's right. That's right. Jerry, you and I are both certified life coaches, and we talk about what happens down the road. Planning for the future, making that path, and reaching all your goals and objectives for the future. Right. Well, a lot of people aren't looking to the future when they're seeing all these riots and all this mass destruction and the looting and the stealing and the destroying of buildings. Okay, who's going to pay for that? Well, it's going to be the little guys. That's all of us. We're going to pay for that. Okay, just look how insurance companies, how they are designed. The insurance company is not going to absorb that. We are the consumer. That's the way it works. It filters down. So this kind of mass chaos, this is not serving a better purpose, a greater purpose. And is it really going to change and shape, how we view racism in this country and stuff like that. How could it be when you have all of this mass destruction? Terrence Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, he said it so beautifully yesterday when he was talking to the crowd, and he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? My brother wouldn't want this. Okay, we are a God-fearing people. Our family is, and do it peacefully. Let your voices be heard in other ways, not by stealing and doing this." I mean, let's face it, it's just to watch it. I can't even watch it when seeing cars, beautiful new buildings, all sorts of things being blown up. I mean,
a police precinct.
Yeah. I mean, this is insanity. It really is.
Well, and maybe as you're listening right now, maybe you have some thoughts on on exactly that, the response of law enforcement. I mean, the irony, one of the ironies in this for me, Debbie, is during the pandemic, one of the things that we dreaded the most was curfews and law enforcement in the streets and National Guard and military. We were begging God to not let that happen. And now all of a sudden we're begging God to fill the streets with law enforcement and military and National Guard to stop all this nonsense. So it's amazing. So we come from the pandemic, which we're not out of yet. Think about that. We're really starting to open up. But we've still got a long way to go in dealing with that issue. And now, basically, it's been off the TV 24-hour news cycle because of these protests and things, which, we fully support. I mean, the Catholic Church would say gathering, protesting peacefully, letting your voice be heard is absolutely a right that we all have. So how do we strike a balance here, Debbie? That's, I guess, maybe one of the key questions we need to talk about today.
Well, what I brought up with Marty the other night is I said, what's interesting how we replace news stories. We hyper-focus on certain things. There was always an overemphasis, I should say, on constantly making immigration the top headline, right? Immigration, right? Now for the past couple months, it's been the pandemic. Now it's the rioting. Now it's really this is getting very, very strange, folks. Does anyone else feel that way? Because if you do, call in and share your take on this and how we are to respond as Catholic Christians when we see injustices. And that goes across the board, all the way across the board. Let's talk about anything that's been in the news and the headlines. So let's please think about it, call in. And if you don't agree with everybody's takes, it's okay. Let's have that necessary dialogue. 833-288-3986, talking about injustices today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Looking for a 2020 view on how Catholics are voting in the upcoming election? EWTN News and Real Clear Opinion Research are partnering to bring you clear and concise data on where the nation stands on issues, candidates, policies, and more by surveying Americans, including Catholics like you. And it's available now at EWTNnews.com/poll.
He is only one of 4 popes honored as the Great.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Leo I was pope at a time when Roman civilization was being overrun by barbarian armies. He stood as a light in the darkness and even saved the city of Rome from destruction by Attila and the Huns. Leo died in 461.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
The power of prayer depends on God's action, not on our praying. The Holy Spirit prays within us with groanings too deep for words, as Romans 8 says. And He empowers us to seek God and to seek from Him all that we need. And the answer to prayers are always from God in order to worship Him.
This is your show. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we've got a lot of interest already. Many of you have something you would like to impart to our global audience on this topic of injustices. Obviously, our lead into this is the George Floyd tragedy and what happened there. And what do we do? How do we strike a balance between reacting to that, responding, protesting peacefully, and also what's going on with the unlawful stuff? It's really disappointing. I wonder how we're going to move past this and recover our nation's dignity. I mean, we've done it before, so I know that we can do it again, and we'll get to your calls momentarily. I just want to remind you that Cresta in the Afternoon is coming up this afternoon. Well-known Catholic speaker and author Al Cresta looks at all of life through the lens of Scripture and the teaching of the Catholic Church, providing a daily conversation, personal, authentic, human, about the things that matter most. That's Cresta in the Afternoon this afternoon at 4 Eastern Time on most of these EWTN stations.
Okay, we've got an open phone line, so if you have something to say about this topic of injustices and how do we respond as Christians, we want to hear from you. 833-288-3986. Okay, first up is Martha, and Martha is from Wayne, New Jersey. I know Wayne, New Jersey very, very well. I spent a lot of time there, Martha, listening on Sirius XM 130. Welcome.
Welcome, Debbie and Jerry. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I was outraged of what it's going on and has been going on, the abuse, but it's only a 2% of really bad apples in the forest. That has to make it clear. And they're making 80% bad. But as a Catholic, the way we use social media, I'm on Facebook myself, I think we need to put positive messages out there, reach out, putting God back into the role and writing letters. Especially, we have a lot of politicians who are Catholic, and I'm so upset because our own Catholic community, especially in high places, and I didn't want to mention her name, but Miss Pelosi, who calls herself Catholic, I am upset because it's like you see people, judges, and everyone being instigators instead of bringing peace and bringing God. So if the laity can come and say, let's come in union as citizens, let's pray more, let's do more prayers, maybe communities, parishes, for like at least adoration, something where we can come together to really, because I think with adoration, prayer, and unity, this can be resolved. But if we put God aside and we want to do it ourselves, we're not gonna win until we don't put God first. No one's gonna win this. No one, and we have to be an example. So for me personally, I try to give good messages. I don't approve. I'm telling people to please stop, to please pray, to please make a difference, and to not engage. And I wish these politicians would put like a curfew where it would be only, yes, you can protest, but you can only protest for a couple hours, and that's it. And after a certain hour, after 5 or before 4, stop, because you know that the criminals are coming out is at night, so they won't get a chance. And we definitely need to pray for our president, because I'm not with any side. I am for pro-life, for justice, and that we do everything the way we're supposed to do.
Well, amen. Amen to all of that, Martha. Thank you so much. I'm just reminded as you're talking of the passage in 2 Chronicles 7, verse 14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear and heal their land. Our land is in desperate need of healing. The problem is the physician who can heal us has been an unwelcome guest in his own world for a long time. You mentioned bringing God back into the equation. Yes, absolutely. Without that, if we do not do that collectively, then we are never going to see a turnaround and a healing in our land from these things that are going on. And I think this goes for all of us. I need to be on my knees in prayer. Debbie, you, all of us, our church leaders, we need to hear from our church leaders about this. They need to give us guidance on this. So, Debbie, I think she's making some wonderful points, Martha in New Jersey.
I completely agree, Martha. I just wanted to say something, circling back to politicians that are card-carrying Catholics that don't espouse the church's teachings when they are speaking to the public. It happens all the time. It happens within our church. You know, there's a lot of people that claim to be Catholic. They enjoy that, to say that, oh yes, I'm a Catholic, because they were raised Catholic, or they like, it's, you know, culturally in their circle to be Catholic. I get that, but we have folks sitting, well, not sitting in the pews now, but a couple months ago, we have folks sitting in the pews that, you know, over 50% don't believe in the real presence, okay, of Jesus in the Eucharist, the body, blood, soul, and divinity. What does that tell you? That tells you that people enjoy the label of Catholic, but aren't fully authentically Catholic. So I think, honestly, when it comes to that, we really got to somehow throw that out the window, because just because somebody says they're Catholic doesn't mean they share our same values and beliefs. What do you think, Martha?
Yeah, I believe that for us who have that personal relationship with God, which I know there's many, many people all over, maybe we need to come together, those who believe in the real presence, maybe those who are practicing really not just going to church because it's a ritual and we have to do it, but when we have a desire for God, maybe like I'm going to tell my friends now that maybe I'm going to talk to some of the ladies, maybe we're going to have to take a walk and pray the rosary. Because if those people, we start praying the rosary, going out there, being the difference, and then people can come up to us, and then we can talk to them about Jesus. And then maybe somehow we can diffuse it if we start praying out, and we're not showing. We're not, you know what, I see the Protestants and I see the churches, because most of the Protestant churches are all ex-Catholics. And I know it because when I was working, I almost became a Protestant. But I had a group of 10 people. Out of the 10 girls, 2 stayed in the church, the other 8 left. And they go to their churches and they're involved, and I'm trying to pull them back in, and we used to have like, I hate to say this, but we used to have religious fights. But anyway, that's all over. But we respect each other, we love each other, but they do a lot. So I'm trying to even talk to them and say, listen, let's go out, let's pray, let's do a formal prayer, even if it's just the Our Father. Maybe we don't agree with anything, but let's go out there and pray. I tell them about the rosary. I tell them what it means, because they were Catholics who, like you said, they didn't know. They thought it was repetitive. But now that I'm trying to help them understand that this is Bible-based, and that if we do this is a powerful thing. So maybe if we can get people to go out in the streets, maybe walk around their neighborhood, say a prayer, or go somewhere where, or maybe, yesterday I wanted to say, I didn't want to go into New York because it's bad, but maybe during when the protesters are early, maybe we can stand and pray. And just sit in a corner and pray the Our Father, the Hail Mary, do a rosary. We have to do something. And the power of prayer is powerful. Maybe there's not too many good Catholics, but for those few of us, we got to do something. I just think we got to do. It only took.
Yeah, Martha, it doesn't take a million people. You know, the old saying, God plus one is an army. God doesn't need a lot of people. God needs just a faithful few, and may we be counted among those few, and never take for granted our faith, the gift of our faith. And you're very articulate. You've said some really, I think, helpful things for our conversation today. So, Martha, thank you so much for calling
Martha.
From Wayne, New Jersey. We appreciate that very much.
Jerry, where 2 or more are gathered, so 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all, right? Okay, Karina is up next in Des Moines, Iowa, listening on Sirius XM 130, is a first-time caller. Welcome to the family, Karina.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I just wanted to call because I was listening in, and everyone is addressing a whole lot of issues, right? Mm-hmm. But what we have to first say that God asked us all to do everything decent and in order. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
To follow a certain rule, a certain way of doing things.
Right.
So, as a black female and mother, I have 2 sons. I have a 15-year-old and a 3-year-old. Everyone talks about the rioting and the looting and how the destroying property is so wrong. And yes, you are right. But first, can we acknowledge that we are prioritizing things the wrong way? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Stop saying it's horrible that an innocent black man was killed, but destroying property has to stop. Can we please say it's horrible that property is being destroyed, but the killing of innocent black men must stop?
Mm-hmm.
First. That's why we believe that you all don't think our lives matter, because everyone talks about property and things first, and then the issue of the death. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. The only thing I just would add, just for because I completely understand where you come from, is, and I respect that very much. I just want to say that the reason why it bothers me so much watching George Floyd gasp for breath until he died, okay, is now being overshadowed by all of this stealing and looting for people to run in and do all this, mass chaos and destruction and danger and all sorts of things. We're gonna lose the emphasis of what it really means for this man. This man lost his life, and you're absolutely correct. Things have to change. They must change. And that's what his brother was trying to say yesterday, and he kept saying it over and over again. But still, there were those that want to cloud out that, believe it or not. And that's the sad part for me, Karina. Help me on that, because I want to focus on George Floyd. I don't want to focus on the Mercedes that was burnt up at the showroom. What do you think about that?
We never get to this point. We never hear you all say, first and foremost, that you must stop killing these innocent men.
Absolutely. Stop. Yeah. I'll say it a million times.
Then we can address the ugliness of all this. See? Because we hear all of those other things, and it just gets our blood boiling. We get so upset and so angry that how can you all fault us for this violence and this hurt when I'm laying here and I'm watching a father, a son, a child die every single day? Not just this time on TV, but every single day. Every single day I worry about my son walking out my door and going to the store. I have to tell him before he leaves the door, please, son, make sure you don't have on this shirt. Make sure you don't raise your voice.
Right.
Don't walk too fast. Don't run. Walk away from this. Don't speak too loud. Stand still. I have to tell him that he can't be a person first because he's black.
Well, if I can just jump in here for just a second, Karina, God bless you for, your thoughts on this. And I think, I would just like to speak personally from my heart for a second. My brother-in-law is a black man, and I could not love him more. My best friend in college was a black man. He was from Trinidad, actually. My best friend in the seminary when I was studying for the priesthood was a Vietnamese man. I don't see any color, and I don't think Debbie sees any color when we look at anybody, no matter who it is. And I think, I hope that you heard early in the conversation where we said, this is absolutely a tragedy, and yes, it absolutely has to stop. I think we have to realize, too, there are innocent, unarmed white men that are killed. There are unarmed Asians who are killed. This happens a lot, and unfortunately, Hispanics. So it doesn't matter to me anyway, Karina, the color of a person's skin. The violence has to stop, and we can't. The people who are perpetrating this, especially when it's a police officer, it just elevates the ugliness of the whole thing. So I just wanted to share those personal thoughts. You're kind of painting with a broad brush here, and I don't think I fit into that camp.
I don't either.
Think Debbie does.
Yeah, I have extended family members that are every single color of the universe, and I love it, and including myself. So I think you're in. I think we understand where your come from is, Karina. I just wanted to. I think what we're trying to put out there or have people weigh in on is the idea that how do we respond as Christians? What do you see as the best way we can respond, Karina? I want to ask you, I mean, what are our next steps? Tell us what our next steps should be.
I think what we have to do next is we have to figure out how can we allow those officers and people in these, I guess, positions of authority, how can we allow them to show their support and solidarity and not be punished? Because if I can look and see that you wear your heart on your sleeve like I do, because I can't change my blackness, you know? Everybody's going to see that no matter what, my black, my brown, whatever. I can't change that. But if I can see a heart, and I know right away that he's wearing that heart because he thinks that I mean something, I can hold his hand, and I can join forces with him, and I can share his cause and his hurt, and I can know that we stand together. However, they have to know that they can do that without fear of being persecuted.
Exactly. Okay, we're going to address that. So keep listening, Karina, because you're on to something. When Jerry and I, we had done the research on this. We're with you on this. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie coming back, talking about how we can respond to injustices.
Dr. Greg Popcak.
We want listeners to see that God has a unique and unrepeatable plan for their lives and how to rejoice in the work God is doing in their hearts and in their homes.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hi, this is Debbie Georgianni.
And I'm Jerry Usher.
Have you joined our Inspired by Faith book club yet? Log on to standtalltoday.com and click on the book club tab.
Our facilitator, Gigi, picks a great book each month for us to read together.
Then we have a virtual conversation about it at the end of the month.
It's a great way to make sure spiritual reading is part of your daily life.
Again, go to standtalltoday.com and follow the link to register for the Inspired by Faith book club.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popcak.
You've heard it said that children are resilient, but it turns out that's not as true as we might like to think. A study in the journal Clinical Neuroimaging reports that children who experienced common family stressors like a lack of affection, marital problems, or poor communication experienced less development in the brain regions responsible for impulse control and stress regulation than did children who were raised in homes without similar stressors. The study is a wake-up call for moms and dads to attend to marriage and parenting struggles promptly. Currently, many couples wait 4 to 6 years before getting professional help. Knowing the effect that marriage and family stress has on our children's developing brains can hopefully encourage parents to get help sooner rather than later. To encourage good impulse control and stress management in our kids, the most important parenting technique is providing our children with a loving, affectionate, peaceful home life. I'm Dr. Greg Popcak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
And I'm Deacon Harold. The Morning Glory team discusses African Americans on the path to sainthood.
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Our thanks again to Karina in Des Moines, Iowa for listening and being a first-time caller, listening on Sirius XM 130. We appreciate that. Talking about certainly the George Floyd tragedy, and certainly it's a tragedy when any person is mistreated, when there's an injustice, especially when a life is lost. Mm-hmm. And we need to realize that this is probably a lot more commonplace among people of all races than we perhaps are aware of. So we're talking about that today, but also how we can address injustices in general peacefully. I mean, think about, Debbie, the civil rights movement was born of nonviolence, and it was based on nonviolence. So it's senseless when anybody, abuses anybody physically or in any other way, and especially takes their life.
Mm-hmm. Well, after praying about this show and doing the research, Jerry, you and I had spoken many times. Karina was, we talked to Karina off air when we were on the break. Did you say off air? Off the air? How do you say it? Off the air.
Off air, yeah.
Off air, all right. And Karina was sharing about how she was prompted by the Spirit to call in, and her Bluetooth wasn't exactly lining up, and our show was, and she wasn't going to listen to the shows today, and our show happened to pop up, and I think it is just amazing, and I do believe it is of God, and let me share why. I was praying about this late last night, and I kept coming to me, and Karina said it so beautifully. It was coming to me in prayer, but I couldn't wrap the words around it. And Karina was saying, wouldn't it be great if people in authority had a symbol of a heart, and you can identify, and that means they're going to recognize each other as human beings with feelings and hearts and souls, right? And it kept coming to me in prayer last night, Jerry. Why aren't we just going back to soul? If we could look like Mother Teresa looked at every one of those dying in Calcutta, India, as Christ, as souls that she needed to care for, to be at service to be of service to. Okay, people in authority, they should be of service-minded. Deeply in their souls. Okay. I'm so tired of people saying, well, I have the power to do this. We don't have the power to do anything. God has the power. Okay. We should be in service to one another as human beings with hearts, minds, and souls. And we will see a different world. That's how my mind works. And in prayer, it came so clear. And then Karina affirmed it. And I'm so grateful to her.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. We have to, like I said before, we cannot see skin color, nationality, even religion. Mother Teresa, like you said, St. Teresa in India, she would minister to anybody no matter what, because the human being, the human heart, the human body, the human soul needs to be cared for. And we need to be out there in front and be the ones who are setting, leading by example. So, all right, let's go back to your calls. Mary in Cleveland, listening on The Rock, also a first-time caller to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. There we go. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. I'm an older lady. I'm the oldest of 8 children. And obviously, my mom and dad both had to keep peace in between us siblings, because I was the oldest, and then I had 4 brothers who didn't like having an older sister. But anyway, when we would get into, say for instance, my brother would take maybe a chocolate chip cookie from me, my mother would, and she saw it happen, and if I got angry and yelled at him or whatever, my mother would come back, 2 wrongs do not make a right, okay? Now, I also have a son who happens to be a policeman, a county sheriff, actually, in another state, wasn't involved in it, obviously, not even in the state. I kind of have to look at it from 2 sides, but I think the idea that, okay, this happened. It's very, very sad. I said a prayer for the man. I think we have to let our legal system take care of the act that actually happened. The acts that are happening now, all this looting, damaging people's property and everything, that's not making. We've got 2 wrongs here, but they don't make a right. And that's kind of simple way to put it, but I would like to see the hurting of people's property. Yeah, you can protest, walk around with signs, don't litter, don't, damage anybody's property, and you're making your point known. And that's fine. That's what we in the United States feel we can do, and we should be able to do. But doing the damage to property, no. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Right. Debbie, I don't know if you have anything. I have a quick thought.
No, you go right ahead.
Well, it's been pointed out, I think, certainly enough times for right-thinking people to know that those who really care about justice, not only in this case but across the board, are not the ones who are doing these additional injustices, these crimes. Let's face it; these are crimes, added on top of what apparently may very well be the crime of murder. It looks like, Debbie, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the swiftest times where an officer was not only dismissed or put on paid administrative leave or fired or whatever, but charges brought against him as well. So Mary brought up the legal system, and that God willing, it is going to be fair and honest, and justice in that sense is going to be served, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing, Mary, that I just want to say is, thank goodness for the two people that had those cell phone videos, because when the cell phone or the surveillance cameras aren't on or the body cams aren't on, this is happening can be happening on a regular basis. And that's why, like going back to Karina's call, this has to stop. We have to either retrain everyone, including us, as citizens, and adopt a different view on how we engage when we engage. Because let me just share something, Mary. You're saying your son is a police officer. If God forbid I was being robbed, okay, and I called the police, I want that police officer or a few of them actually to come in full force and to stop that robbery. And I depend on them. And I'll probably wait every single second until I hear their cop car pulls up, and then I know, I'm safe. That's what we want our police to do, to be there to serve and protect. Okay, but to kill like that, the way it happened, thank goodness for that cell phone. I think it was a teenager that had the cell phone, because it may not have been murder charges, and that's wrong. Mary, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was, we're saying it's wrong, yes, and because we have kind of the evidence to prove it, but they still have to, and
right.
Like I said, legally, it's got to go through the law. Mm-hmm. That's the law of our country. You're right. We don't know whether that policeman maybe had something mentally went wrong at that point. We don't know what his state was. Only God knows that. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe he was a gentleman who shouldn't have been a policeman.
That's right.
We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you from the training that my son had, let me tell you, they just don't take, at least at where my son is, they just don't take anybody off the street to be a policeman. They have to go through a lot of psychological, and everything else. And maybe, who knows, maybe this guy had a bad day with his wife. Who knows? Sometimes we can't judge that. We don't know. But what I'm saying, I'm addressing more the looting problem that is going on. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, if you understand that. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah. Not under any circumstances. And as Debbie pointed out, this is something that, we as a society, as a nation, not only in this generation, but in coming generations are going to be paying for. And I'm just praying and hoping to God that, cooler heads will prevail, that, those voices that come out, like you said, Debbie, his brother, was it Terrence?
Terrence. Mm-hmm.
That as he speaks and politicians and so forth, that it will just calm this down, because God knows, our country is about to collapse into, it's hard to believe, when we entered this year of 2020, we all had such high hopes, 2020, the year of clarity and vision and all of this, and it's just been nothing but one big train wreck, so.
Well, yeah, and did anyone see that video of that beautiful news coverage of that beautiful lady on the bicycle, and she praised the police officer, and the police officer, and then they were kind of crying together and they hugged one another. It was so beautiful. And you know what I saw there? I saw two souls created in the image and likeness of God coming together. Okay, yes, he had a badge and he was a police officer. And yes, she was on a bicycle, and she was a civilian, and she was, but there's two souls coming together. And I think that's where, if I may, I hope I'm not putting words into Karina's mouth, but that's where her come from was. And I think that's where we're all trying to get to. And yeah, the stealing and the looting and the damage, that needs to stop. It just needs to stop, because that doesn't serve anyone. So Mary, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm on a soapbox, but this really, I have to tell you, I watched that video over a half a dozen times, and it really, I can't get it out of my head. I really can't. And it's very difficult. And I know others feel the same way. So maybe that's what you're hearing is the emotion behind it. So please forgive me.
All right, Mary, thank you for the call. We've got others we want to get to here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. As the aftermath, the fallout of the George Floyd murder and killing, whether it was murder or not, that's up for a court to decide. The officer is going to be in pretty deep water, it looks like. But we're just talking about, how do we remain sane through all of this? What is a response? What is a Catholic Christian response to this, to injustice in general? It's come up many times on the show today. We've got to somehow see this stop. But Debbie, I don't see it's really stopping until somehow, some way, we bring God and back into public life, back into education. We just told God, we kicked him out. God, you're no longer welcome here. And he says, okay, well, if I'm not welcome there, guess who is going to be welcome there? Satan. So there, the Satan, the satanic, demonic element to this is just. I don't mean people. I just mean with what's going on. It's right. Not of God. Certainly not of God.
Well, and Jerry, you make a good point. Okay, you've heard the saying, "Love conquers all." Well, we've kicked love out the door. Okay, God is love. We've kicked love right out the door. So what do we have? We have hate. We have hate, and it's massive. And that's not good. We need to bring back godly love. We need to bring back that beautiful, beautiful love that we know from God and that we can give to one another. Sorry, it's my religious education hat going on again. Here we go. Okay, Marcel.
Well, yeah.
Marcel in Brantford, Connecticut, Sirius XM 130. Marcel, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jerry and Debbie, and thank you so much for actually having this conversation out loud. I think you were looking for solutions. And I think one of the solutions is we have to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable about this whole situation. An example is there's been a lot of churches that, Catholic churches that are televising masses, and their masses did not even discuss what the incident that happened. I was flabbergasted by the fact that it wasn't. How could you not talk about something that's so important? So many people go to the church to actually get guidance. And I think we have to get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations about race and about humanity. We have a history as an African-American Catholic. I have a history in this country of horrific things that are happening up into this day. In our society, in our Catholic society, there's a very strong pro-life movement going on, which I understand is from conception to natural death. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that our pro-lifers is for every person, every person that is involved in this. Right. In this particular case, I truly believe that it was an extreme, it was a murder, however, whatever the causes were, whatever the reasons. And I agree, sometimes we have to look at what is the psyche of our police, but we have to, we're all people of God. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us. It doesn't matter the religion. It doesn't matter the culture. We all have to treat each other as human beings with respect.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And as Catholics, right?
Yep. Amen. May I just say something really quickly? You said it wasn't it wasn't spoken about at different masses. I do know that there were a couple masses that I saw that they did mention it, which was good. It's probably not enough, okay, but at least they mentioned it, which was good to bring it to everybody's attention. But also, the head of the USCCB, Archbishop Gomez, gave a very, very strong statement on it. And so that's important too. But I agree with you, Marcel. We've got to get uncomfortable. We just do. Let's face it. This is a spiritual battle of good and evil, and it's happening all around us in various levels and various dimensions. And we've got to start having these conversations so we get back to what is truly of God. And I think that's what you're saying, Marcel. That's what Karina was saying. And when we do that, you'll see a peaceful nation. You'll see a peaceful people, because none of us want this kind of conflict. This is horrible what's happening. And to turn on the news and have our children see this, what signal is it sending to our children? It's okay when you see something like this. This is what you do. No, we wouldn't. We say to our kids, you can't do that. But mommy, why am I seeing this on the news? 10 hours a day. So you're right. We've got to have these discussions. Jerry, what do you think?
I go back to Mother Teresa, St. Teresa of Calcutta again. I think this was attributed to her, and I think it fits perfectly with what, Marcel, you're saying. The saying was something like, we need to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Because sometimes we get behind our closed doors, our gated communities, our security-laden places that we live and so forth, and we think that this doesn't have an impact on us. The fact is, it does impact every single one of us. If we don't feel this in our very depths, Debbie and Marcel, I have been with the pandemic, it was bad enough, and now all of this. My soul, it just feels so burdened right now. Mm-hmm. I just feel so weighed down with all of the ugliness in our country and around the world. So, yeah, we need to get back to comforting the afflicted, but also afflict the comfortable, as Mother Teresa said. Yep. Draw people out. We all need to be drawn out of our comfort zone so that we do see what's going on, and we just try to have whatever little difference every one of us can have.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Marcel?
I think that hate is something that is taught. Children don't hate naturally. They love naturally. That's why Mary, most of her apparitions were with children. A lot of children are involved because their souls are so pure until we, as adults, hate and show them what hate is, and don't play with this person, and don't do this and don't do that. And we have to understand that love, pure love that only can come from our Christ, right? Will never have hate in it. And that's what we have to understand. At least we need acknowledgement. I remember, I'm an African-American woman. There was a certain culture that I thought I didn't particularly care for until I actually had a personal encounter of a person of that one that I thought I didn't care for. And immediately I realized that was my own prejudices, because we all have them, okay? But once I realized that this person is a human being just like everybody else, all of a sudden now I look at everybody with the same lens. They are all of God and need to be respected in that way. Now, some people will do things that are not respect-worthy, and we are not saying that everybody, no matter what they do, should be treated the same, but on the granular level, they should be treated the same. And all I could do is continue to pray to our Blessed Mother and to Jesus every day that this situation, this travesty that has happened to George Floyd will start those conversations that are not going to stop because nothing is happening, which has been our history. The civil rights movement, I was 10 years old when the civil rights movement was going on in 1968 with the riots that happened then, and then we stopped talking about it. And then something else happened, and then we stopped talking about it. These conversations need to be continual, and I think once you get past that initial uncomfortableness, that's when that breakthrough and the Holy Spirit is going to be able to touch us all. God bless you.
Thank you, Marcel.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That was
beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Gives us a lot to really think about and take deep into our hearts. And in prayer, we want that. We want those transformations to happen. Jerry, I don't even, do we have time to go to someone next? I don't want to cut anybody off.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to mention, you talked about at the start of the show, almost 5 years of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, of having conversations like the one that we're having right now, where you call in, share what you have on your heart, on your mind, you drive the program. And with our 5th anniversary coming up, we just wanted to direct your attention to a little bit of a survey. It takes a minute or less or a little bit more, depending on how long you want to ponder. But if you go to take2show.com, there is the happy anniversary big banner there. Just click on that. We would love to hear from you about we have a list of some of the topics that you've really been that have been popular over the first 5 years, and that will help guide us through our anniversary week. We're going to take a whole week and mark the 5 years of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and then beyond. So if you want to weigh in with your thoughts about some of your favorite topics, just go to take2show.com and you can take that survey. Click on the banner, Happy Anniversary.
Jerry, did you see the wonderful comments that are coming in via social media? Jeff alerted us to them, and we got one from Kenya. Did you want to share? Do you see it? We've got so many coming in. You guys really have a lot to say about this, but it's so beautiful. Your hearts are showing. It's amazing to see everybody's comments. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, well, we had a comment from, I'm not sure I can, Wambui Wa Nyorog. I can't really say the name, forgive me for that, but it says, the world is a village, and we are appalled as we watch how race is such a big divide in your country, meaning here in the United States. We hope and pray that God will bring good out of this. I worried when my son had visited. And that thought occurred to me this morning, Debbie. I thought, we hear it all the time. God can bring good out of anything, and he allows things to happen for a better purpose. It just seems like God must have some awesome things in store for our nation and for the world because of the things that he is allowing to happen right now, if he brings good out of these things.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, help me out with this, because we have full phone lines. We've got a lot of comments coming in. People have a lot to say, even about how we addressed things, and that's great. That's what conversations are all about. We have thick skins. Actually, I have a very thin skin, so don't bother sending me anything. Jerry, do we go to someone else?
Patricia is up next in Cary, North Carolina. Yeah, we've got about 2 minutes, Patricia, but we wanted to fit you into the program. Welcome.
Hi, Patricia.
Well, thank you. I do believe I'm a faith-filled woman. I'm much older than probably you are or what I sound. However, in regards to the situation, has anyone given thought to the fact of, I respect what the other lady said who had family that are in the police department, because I, too, have family in police department, of the situation that the start of this circumstance, there was a wrong committed according to our justice system in this country. Our policemen go out there every day, dress up, and they're out there for the majority, the percentile, to protect us. As you said, you wouldn't want the robber in your house. I've had the robber in my house. The start of the crime. The policemen are trained on how to deal with someone, not only because of the crime of passing the bad bill, but they had to deal with an addictive personality that obviously that addiction physically had come to head. They are trained on how to bring someone down under those circumstances. And if you know, obviously you do, I'm sure, how the strength of an addicted person, one person is not capable of doing so. So in all of this, please remember, not only was one life taken, which is very, very sad, but how many other lives have been taken? And how many lives have been saved by our police department? Do you think you would have...
Patricia, forgive me for the sake of time. We're just going to hear the closing music. There it is. Maybe I can, a good place to end would be an email we got from Kelly in New Jersey. She says, when we need police, we call 911, are grateful they show up, but when police are distracted by evil riots, they cannot help those in need. She says, thank God we have people who will sacrifice to keep society safe. And Debbie, I think we want to be very, very clear on, this is a no-win conversation, really, with every different group involved, but we want to be clear. It's a tragedy. Yes, indeed, there have been subsequent misdeeds and crimes, but our law enforcement, we have nothing but the uttermost respect and love for them.
Absolutely. And I hope we made that abundantly clear today on this wonderful conversation. Thanks, everybody. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.